This is how I captured stunning sunrise photos as a landscape photographer. From the ocean to the mountains, the sunrise looks completely different depending on where you are. And today, I'm going to show you how to capture it to come out with breathtaking photos. So let's start by heading over to Treasure Island Beach. As soon as we arrived to the beach, the colors were already starting to come out, with beautiful reds and light pinks. And the last thing I wanted to do was miss this incredible opportunity. I pulled out my Nikon Z30 with the 28-400 to capture these faraway beach cliff sides in the background. I figured that this would help to isolate both the cliff sides and the colors way off in the distance with the long focal length and plenty of compression. I also decided to throw on a 3-stop ND filter to reduce the shutter speed even further. Normally, this would be an issue if I wanted to capture sharp, handheld photos with the telephoto lens. But since I was on a tripod, this would help me capture a sharp image without any motion blur. And I definitely needed it, as I captured this image at a 0.6 second shutter speed while at a 187mm effective focal length. The reason for using the slow shutter speed was to help smooth out the water's rough tides. When I got down to the bottom, I tried to capture a wide-angle image of the entire landscape facing the sun coming up. But I ran into a few key issues. First of all, the composition didn't look great. It looked like the beach cliffside kept on going on and on without stopping, making it difficult to get a single focal point in the image. And since the sun was coming up very fast, this blew out the sky and made it difficult to capture an even exposure, so I had to pivot. I went around to the other side of the beach and again pulled out my Z30 and 20-400 to try and capture that faraway beach cliffside again. But this time, I was focused on creating a bit of a different composition. You see, instead of capturing the cliffside dead on like I did in my last shot, I used this huge opening to frame the cliffside in the background. I know this seems like a very amateur way to capture it, but I think this makes sense in this scenario. The goal here was to give as much context as possible to the cliffsides in the background. So to add context, I used layers in the image to give a sense of depth to the photo. I used a slightly wide focal length of around 119mm, which gives off enough compression to make the cliffside super apparent, but wide enough to showcase all the other elements I was capturing, like the water in the foreground, as well as the whole other foreground cliffside. Today I'm really just focused on getting one composition of this cliffside in the background during sunrise, and I think this is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, if you see the kind of light that's coming up here, it's really soft, and that's where the sun is actually coming up from. And for this composition, I'm really focusing on getting that water moving in and getting that nice movement in a dynamic foreground element. It's turned out really well so far. I'm actually really excited to go ahead and take a look at these images. And even though this shoot might seem easy, since I'm only shooting one composition, it was far from that. I took a lot of photos of the exact same composition, so I can not only capture the changing light, but also to ensure that I get the water to how I want it to look. I captured the same shot over and over again, and used a slow shutter speed of around 0.8 seconds. Now I might be looking at me shooting and think, well, why couldn't you just capture the photo and then try to capture other images? Well, I definitely could have, but I'd rather focus on one portfolio worthy photo than try and chase a certain quantity of photos, and I think the image speaks for itself. I was able to get the water moving towards me, and this beach cliffside really stood out and had a really nice curvature to it. But with it, we get nice, soft pleasing lighting that help to add subtle orange tints and soft, beautiful morning light. So today I decided to shoot at the Los Angeles National Forest, and it is gorgeous out here. Just look at that marine layer down there. It's pretty big and it covers a lot of the base of the mountain there. And as we were driving up, I was kind of concerned that it would be a big issue when it comes to getting a nice clean landscape, but it actually cleaned up quite a bit, and it's mainly at the bottom part of the mountain, so it's not too big of a deal. The sunrise is going to be over there, and I was just curious to see how it's going to look up here in the Los Angeles National Forest, because I've never actually shot here, and I'm actually quite excited. The colors and lighting right now looks really good. We have maybe about 20 minutes until the sun rises. On this shoot, I was mainly focusing on capturing that marine layer. It's not so often that you get to be above the clouds and showcase that perspective, but today we were. I wanted to use the valley to help bring the entire image together by having an element that will balance out the rest of the image. So I decided that a wide-angle lens would be best. By having a wide-angle focal length, this helps to showcase the expansive landscape and creates a complex composition. For my first shot, I captured this as wide as I could at 14mm to get as many different elements as possible. This also allowed me to showcase the foreground, which looked like a path that moved straight down the valley and created a sort of leading line to the marine layer in the middle. But for my next image, I decided that having a relatively similar composition, but with a tighter focal length, could help to bring out more of that marine layer in the valley. And by zooming in, this actually helped to create more depth in the photo. It's definitely a different vibe, but one that I was glad to see, as the sky's colors and clouds were an even bigger part of the frame. I rarely zoom in on my wide-angle lens, but this is one of the few cases where it made a ton of sense. I then decided to put away my wide-angle lens since I was pretty happy with the images I was able to capture, and switched over to my telephoto lens. In general, there weren't many elements that made sense to capture with a telephoto focal length, except for one. What I was going to capture wouldn't be like the other compositions where I had a distinct subject and the other supporting elements, but instead, just an aesthetic and a feeling. I wanted to showcase what it truly felt like to be there that day, and give a vibe that felt like you were floating on the clouds. So that's exactly what I captured, simply a photo of the clouds. By using a long telephoto lens, I was able to showcase just how far out these clouds went, and create a feeling that you would only get when you'd be up in the sky on an airplane. The clouds created an incredible texture that had so many different layers to it, while giving the sky room to showcase the soft lighting and subtle colors. The photo feels like you're just floating above the clouds, and it's such a vibe, and I love it. And those are all the images I captured in my 3 shoots. And here's the 2 that were my most favorite. But let me know which ones is your favorite down in the comment section down below. And that's it for today's shoot, and I'm gonna go ahead and edit these photos back at the studio. But if you want to see me do that, check out my Patreon, because I'm gonna be doing a whole editing vlog there where I go through all my photos and edit them fully. So check that out in the description bar below. But honestly, I'm really happy with all the photos that I got on these sunrise shoots, and it's really nice to come out when there's no one around, but B, we're gonna get a lot of different lighting, and I think that's the most exciting part while shooting at sunrise versus sunset. I think sunset is definitely more accessible to more people, but getting those sunrise images, you're able to get completely different colors, completely different lighting, and that's exactly what we're aiming for on these 3 shoots. But anyways guys, that's pretty much it for today's video, and if you like this one, go ahead and check out this one next to me.